Tonight on KGW News, new reaction to the White House advice that has local pediatricians alarmed.
This isn't science and this isn't public health.
Also tonight,
every person has the right to their name.
For nearly 80 years, she was known as the Oak Grove Jane Doe. How forensic investigators are now trying to crack Oregon's oldest cold case. And later, one of the most iconic landmarks in the Northwest celebrates a century.
It's a privilege that we can protect this for future generations.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Mulco. First tonight, unearthing a mystery nearly 80 years in the making as the state medical examiner's office exhumed the remains of a woman believed to be the oldest unidentified person in Oregon. Alma McCarty talked with investigators, and Alma, it sounds like they hope this is a renewed step towards some sort of closure.
Yeah, David, this woman known only as Oak Grove Jane Doe was killed in a grisly murder back in 1946. Although the case drew national attention at the time, the victim's identity was never confirmed.
One of the oldest in the West, Oregon City's Mountain View Cemetery serves as the final resting place for many, with most grave sites marked clearly with a name.
Every person deserves the right to identification.
Among the headstones, one that reads, Unknown Woman, 1946.
Despite this case being nearly 80 years old, this is still a case that we would work to get identified.
Now, the state's forensic anthropologist, Haley Collard-Stalder, and her team are one step closer to finding out who she was, after connecting this gravesite to a woman only known as Oak Grove Jane Doe.
This case has some particularly violent and kind of heinous facets associated with it.
It's a nearly 80-year-old unsolved homicide after partial remains of a woman were found in a burlap sack in the Willamette River back in April 1946. Additional remains were found near Willamette Falls and the McLaughlin Bridge later that year. Clackamas County investigators determined the victim was a middle-aged white woman between 30 and 50 years old, petite in stature.
Being able to, I guess, restore at least the dignity of the decedent's name is something that is really, really valuable, not only for, the decedent herself, but also for her family who may be wondering what happened to her.
The evidence, including Jane Doe's remains, she explains went missing from law enforcement custody in the 50s, with no record of where they ended up. That is until someone with the medical examiner's office used findagrave.com to figure out the remains had been buried.
She found this woman's remains, and then she was able to back check all of the mortuary records to match with the case file that we had. And she was like, yeah, this is our unknown woman.
Remains now exhumed will be tested with technology not available decades ago.
What we would like to do is get this case sent out for forensic genetic genealogy.
And although identification could take years, Collard-Stalder says what some may see as a disturbance of peace has a purpose.
Something that we continue to work toward for everybody. Every person has the right to their name.
According to the state forensic anthropologist, there are around 150 unidentified individuals in Oregon. David?
Yeah, fascinating developments there and hopefully a path toward some sort of answers. Thanks, Alma. To get you caught up on tonight's other headlines now, police say a driver admitted he had been drinking before he got behind the wheel, causing a crash that killed 4 people and injured 4 others in Salem. 23-year-old Saul Hernandez Roblero appeared in court today on manslaughter and DUI charges. Police say he was swerving along Cordon Road on Saturday evening when his car was T-boned by an oncoming vehicle. The 4 killed were passengers in his car. A Newburgh family is suing for $18 million following a deadly plane crash in 2023. This troubling video that killed a student pilot, a flight instructor, and injured a passenger on board. Attorneys for the Ferris family filed a lawsuit against Hillsborough Aero Academy and Ascend Pilot Academy. It's a program associated with Alaska and Horizon Airlines. Their house was destroyed when the aircraft crashed through their roof. While the family was not physically hurt, they're alleging negligence and trespass and say they suffered extensive financial and emotional damage. And Safeway and Albertsons pharmacies across Oregon and Washington are now offering an updated COVID vaccine. Customers can walk in or make an appointment online Children under 7, though, will need to see their pediatrician. You also want to check directly with your insurer about any potential costs, including copays, to avoid any surprises. Okay, we are getting new reaction tonight to a White House announcement that is raising concerns among doctors nationwide. That's after the president said the FDA would work to add new labels to acetaminophen, known in this country as Tylenol, warning that the use of the drug by pregnant women could be tied to autism in their babies. Catherine Cook has more on how most health experts are responding to that. Catherine?
David, first a little background. The Trump administration referenced a series of studies that found a link between prenatal exposure to acetaminophen and neurodevelopmental disorders. But some doctors point out there are many other studies that have not found a link. They're worried that today's advice from the administration went too far.
We announced historic steps to confront the crisis of autism.
Citing limited research, President Trump Monday said he believes acetaminophen, the active ingredients in Tylenol, increases the risk of autism when used by pregnant women.
So taking Tylenol is not good. All right, I'll say it. It's not good. For this reason, they are strongly recommending that women limit Tylenol use during pregnancy unless medically necessary.
Physicians were quick to challenge the claim, including Dr. Kavita Patel from Stanford University.
Study after study has actually shown that there's no causal link with Tylenol and pregnancy and autism.
This is fear-mongering about autism.
Dr. Ryan Hassan is a pediatrician at Pediatric Associates of the Northwest. He says the Trump administration's claims about acetaminophen are not only false, they're harmful.
Tylenol is one of the only and one of the safest options for pain control in pregnancy, and that is an essential aspect of necessary health care. Pain and fever in pregnancy needs to be treated with Tylenol, and not treating pain and fever can lead to complications for the mother and for the baby.
Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has long promoted debunked theories linking vaccines to autism. He also claims autism can be prevented by avoiding certain environmental factors. Dr. Hassan calls that notion another baseless myth. He notes genetics account for about 80% of autism cases and says autism itself is a way that people's brains work that's different from what is typical.
These fears of autism are largely coming from people who have no experience with this and who are just want their kid to be perfect and don't understand that perfect includes autistic kids. And that, I think, is a big point that is missed in this conversation.
The FDA today also issued a press release noting that acetaminophen is the only drug approved to treat fevers during pregnancy. They also noted that aspirin and ibuprofen both have well-documented adverse impacts on unborn children. David?
Yeah, some really important context there. Catherine Cook in the newsroom. Thanks, Catherine. Let's take a live look outside on this Monday night on what turned out to be a gorgeous day as we officially flipped seasons from summer into fall. Chief Meteorologist Matt Zafinos here. Matt, sounds like our sunny stretch is going to continue.
Yeah, for quite a while. The first week of fall looks really great. Outside right now, 58 degrees. This is our Vancouver sky cam at the Springs at the waterfront. A beautiful, beautiful evening out there. Tomorrow will be even warmer. We'll get into that in a minute. But first, let's talk about the sunsets tonight. 7:07, our first sunset of fall. Just a couple days from now, the number of daylight hours and minutes will be less than the number of nighttime hours and minutes, and that sunset time is 7:01. Then at the end of the month, 6:52, and a month from today, 6:12, as the days continue to get shorter as we roll into fall. But today was nice and warm. 77 in Portland, that's above average by a few degrees. Look at the 86 down in Brookings. That's often an indication that the rest of Western Oregon will warm up, and we will the next couple days be in the 80s. Now, it's likely going to get hazy tomorrow. Smoke from the wildfires in Washington diminished quite a bit with the weekend rain, but it's going to pick up, in the northeast winds that we get tomorrow will make our sky a little bit hazier than what it was today. But still, it'll be a clear day. We'll get up to 85 degrees tomorrow, so really an amazing first full day of fall. David?
Yeah, sounds pretty promising. Thanks, Matt. New tonight, the family of a man killed when a tree fell on his Lake Oswego home has now filed a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. The family of Frank George Ness Jr. filed the lawsuit against his neighbor, the city, and a homeowners association. That lawsuit alleges a tree from the neighbor's property fell on Ness's home during a winter storm in January 2024, killing him. The lawsuit accuses the defendants of failing to maintain, inspect, or remove the tree even after the victim expressed concerns about it. We've reached out to the defendants in this lawsuit, and we are waiting to hear back. Also new tonight, a warning from Hillsborough police about credit card skimmers. Authorities share these photos of 3 devices found, though they did not specify exactly where. Thieves often place card skimmers directly over the keypad or card reader. Police advise that if anything looks loose or different or off, anytime you go to pay, you should ask an employee to check it out or simply use a different machine. By the way, investigative reporter Kyle Aboshi's been keeping an eye on card skimmers and efforts by scammers who use them to steal funds, in particular from EBT cards. You can check out his work anytime. It's on KGW.com or on our free TV app, that is KGW+. Well, Election Day is 6 weeks from tomorrow, and voters in Vancouver are set to decide on whether to raise taxes to pay for more police. This comes after a larger levy failed last year. Proposition 5, it's also known as the Police Services Levy, would raise $6 million annually for 6 years to hire up to 13 officers. Well, to put that in perspective, Vancouver's mayor says for a $500,000 home, it would cost an additional $75 a year in property taxes.
We have so many officers with a great amount of overtime. So 2 officers are doing the work of 3 with all of the overtime.
It's not that big of a deal. I mean, especially like I said, compared to everything else. If it makes us safer, it's fine with me.
I mean, it's important to have police, and there's so much homelessness here.
We'll see if people are willing to pay more. The levy will be on the November 4th ballot, with ballots set to hit the mail in a little under a month.